Today down in the comments, I want to know, what are the horror comics you are reading right now? You can tell me about the other kinds of comics you're reading. I enjoy those too, but mostly I want to hear about horror comics. Hello, I'm Adam Cesare. This is Project Black T-Shirt, the channel where we usually review a horror movie, a new release or reissue horror film, and pair it with a piece of horror literature that you will like if you like that film. But today I wanted to talk about a new series, new imprint of comics that is hyper relevant to the stuff I usually talk about on this channel. And that, of course, is DC Comics' new line of Hill House Comics. This is an imprint. Novelist and comics writer Joe Hill. This is his imprint, and he's writing some of them. He's writing some of these limited series, and then he is just presenting and curating some of the other ones. These are the first 6 issues that have been released, and they are spread across 3 mini-series here. The first is Basketful of Heads, the Dollhouse Family, and the Lola Woods. We're going to talk about all 3 of these. I'll give you my impressions. I'll tell you if I think they are worth picking up, which ones I prefer, and as we always do, I'm going to give you a horror novel recommendation at the end of the show. So if you want to see more videos like this, or if you enjoy horror content and horror movies and horror books, give this video a like, give my channel a follow and a subscribe, and go check out all the other stuff I've got for you. Okay, so how they're doing this Hill House imprint is they're basically releasing a few a month. These came out just like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. The first Basketful of Heads came out, and then they're staggering them. There's Basketful of Heads came out, and then the first issue of Dollhouse Family, and now most recently the Lola Woods. While Basketful of Heads is still on issue 3, I think there's either 6 or 7 issues to this one. And then as they start wrapping up, more will come in, and they'll just kind of keep going forever. And the reason that you might want to go buy them in order and read them in order, which is what I did, is that each issue includes a couple pages of a kind of secret 4th comic called Sea Dogs, which is a Revolutionary War werewolf story that Joe Hill wrote, and they piece up each issue. So if you read like Basketball Head straight through, you'd end up on chapter 5 of Sea Dogs. So this one's the furthest one along. This one has 3 issues so far. It's kind of hard to do single issue comic book reviews because they're like 24 pages of story. You know they're going to get collected eventually as a graphic novel. But I will say there's been something really, really nice about going to the store every week, because they've come out basically every week. I think they've only like skipped 1 week. Going to the store every week with these comics particularly in mind, because it just gets you in a local comic book store. You pick them up, and it's like, this is what I'm here for, but maybe I'll pick up, oh, there's a new Vampirella, too. There's a new Steve Niles' Criminal Macabre. There's a new issue of that. Let me grab that. It's just a kind of nice thing, and it's gotten me into this routine of going to the comic book store, where I usually go once a month, once every 2 months. That used to be my thing. Let me pick up a trade. Let me pick up the X, Y, and Z. This has really kind of hooked me into going every week. So I really like that about this series. Basketful of Heads, we start with a flash forward that we don't even know is a flash forward. Then we see a kind of inciting event with a girl's suicide. And then we meet our protagonist and her boyfriend. And it ends with a home invasion. The whole issue, we know that there are these convicts on the loose. We know that they're going to kind of meet up with our protagonist in some way. And then there's a home invasion story. Our main protagonist, who is in this fancy house as a guest, grabs a Viking war axe and begins to defend herself during this home invasion. And then things go really, really weird. They get kind of more trippy and crazy and more comic booky kind of as the series progresses. I really, really like this. I think it's great. I can't wait to see where it's going. To me, out of the 3 of these, this felt like from issue to issue the most serialized and the most like I know it's great. I know I'm enjoying it. I just wanted more each issue. That's Basketful of Heads feels like that to me. The art is really cool. It's by Leo Max. It is very bright, very colorful. There's a lot of, especially early, it's Brody Island. There's some like kind of Jaws parallels and Jaws references that range from subtle to not very subtle at all. Like here's the mayor here, but it's all kind of a red herring because the story goes in a very different way. Great series so far, especially if you pick up all three and kind of binge them and go through. Next is the Dollhouse Family. Now this is by M.R. Carey, and in the back of these, each one has the same kind of introduction or like mission statement about the series from Joe Hill and how he kind of approached curating these. And I love the art in this one. His idea was like, oh, let's get horror creatives not necessarily from comics and have them tell kind of modern horror stories, because horror is kind of undergoing a bit of a renaissance right now, as he says, on TV, in film, and he says, why not do that in comics? And M.R. Carey, even though he started in comics with Lucifer and 2000 AD and things like that, British author, the reason you may know him is because he wrote The Girl with All the Gifts, the zombie novel that had a very good film adaptation, kind of a reverse I Am Legend. But the Dollhouse Family is, out of the three so far, and it's hard to say because the Lola Woods only had one issue, but I feel like the most bang for your buck, because the story, the complete story it tells in issue 1, even though it does end on a cliffhanger, feels so rich and so lived in. It is basically about, tells parallel stories, but the main story is about a young girl who receives this dollhouse. She's got an abusive dad. Her mom's kind of trying to keep the wheels on the best she can. She kind of retreats into this dollhouse, and it becomes like, well, is the dollhouse really haunted? Is she imagining this to kind of get away from the abuse in her family, or is it real? You know, spoilers, it's real, but she's kind of living with this family in this dollhouse. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's this whole backstory that happens in the 1800s, and you learn about how the dollhouse was built and who built it. It is a hell of a great ghost story. I really, really, really like this, and I really can't wait to see where it's going. One of the best single issues of comics I've read in a while, and then issue 2 is, I think, even better. So this one's, if you buy any of them, I would 100% say Dollhouse Family. And last but not least, we have the Lola Woods. This is written by Carmen Maria Machado, and I do not believe that she's written comic book scripts before. She is a celebrated fiction and short fiction writer. Her collection is Her Body and Other Parties, and she's been like nominated for the National Book Award and stuff like that. She's a heavy literary hitter, and this is, I think, her first comic, and it's really good. It's really, really rad. Kind of like Basketful of Heads, it's hard to talk about just the first issue, but so far only the first issue's come out. What I like about it is strikingly different in both art and presentation of from the other two books in the line. And like Basketful of Heads, even though it doesn't go in a slasher direction, it's got heads getting lopped off with a Viking axe. The Dollhouse Family, even though it has kind of more cosmic horror overtones and more generational horror overtones, it is a ghost story. The Lola Woods, I can't tell you what kind of horror it is, because it's very enigmatic and very evocative and very almost surrealist in its presentation, at least in the first issue. We have our two protagonists. They're in a quasi romantic relationship, unclear because they're both kind of pining for someone else. When we're first introduced to them, they've slept through an entire movie, or we think they've slept through an entire movie. They're just in the movie theater. They see the end flash up. They don't know how they've got there. One of them throws up, and then they just walk out and go about their business. They're living in this Pennsylvania town that is clearly takes inspiration from Centralia, which is a coal mining town where like the mines caught fire and they're still literally on fire. Town is still burning. So it's kind of got that one foot in the real world, one foot in the kind of world of crazy, scary urban legends and things like that. There's a deer woman that they come across, and should they tell the cops or not. Their town is clearly accustomed to weirdness and strangeness, and has this kind of almost like Channel Zero vibe, where there is weirdness and surrealism, but it's treated in a kind of matter-of-fact or kind of realistic way. It's really cool. It has great art. It ends on a real cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is so oblique and strange that it's like you reread the last two panels just to be like, what? Like what is happening here? What is the problem? What is the fallout they're going to have to deal with in subsequent issues? But I really like that, and it does set the tone of like this Hill House Presents. These are all different. This is all a different kind of horror, even though they're all under this banner, even though they're all DC Comics is putting them out and Joe Hill's putting his name on them. It's a really great start and a really awesome first issue. And out of the three, I'm clearly the most intrigued by this one because I want to see where it goes. And it really does. It has the writing is beautiful. There's a lot of narration boxes where we're hearing history of this town and history of these characters, and it's really beautifully written. Out of the three, it feels the least comic booky. It feels the most novelistic, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. I think they're all like 6 or 7 issues, or maybe they're all 6 issues. So it is weird knowing, okay, this is definitely going to wrap up at some point, and it's going to do it within the next half year. But that's kind of nice too, because as issues or as series end, I think they're starting new ones. There's still another one in January. A new one starts. There's an ad for it in here. Yeah, Daphne Byrne starts January 8th. So there's going to be a 4th one added to it, and there's going to be a 5th one, which I think is another Joe Hill one. But here's this little letter that he talks about getting. DC Special Blue Ribbon Digest number 6. That's the DC comic that started him off. And he says, when I was my dad brought home DC Special Blue Ribbon Digest number 6. His dad. Oh. I wonder who that is. But these are great. I was going to say, like, oh, you should pick up this one, this one, this one. Whichever one sounds the most interesting to you. Or I would just go, your comic shop probably has all 6 issues still. I just pick them all up and read them like I did. Because they're great. Really, really intriguing. And like I said, I love the idea that this is getting me off my butt and to go into a comic book store every week. If you want books without pictures of them, if you crave prose, then this week's book recommendation is The Tribe by Barry Wood. And this was just re-released as part of the Paperbacks from Hell line that Valancourt is doing. We've talked about it before. We talked about The Spirit. The Tribe is this great, kind of almost quiet horror novel about a golem. It's about this group of survivors of the Holocaust, and how they survive the Holocaust is through supernatural means. And then they move to New York and then later Long Island, and they're kind of still using this golem to protect themselves, this group of men, this tight-knit community of men. And it has very bad unintended consequences, and the people that are kind of trying to investigate and trying to stop the kind of cycle of violence using this golem. It is a hell of a lot better written than a lot of these 80s paperbacks with garish covers. It is a really engaging and good read. I really recommend it. Even if you're like, oh, the Paperbacks from Hell scene, that's not for me. It's all like demon babies and babies with cat heads and skeletons. This is not that kind of thing. It's a much more straight-laced, much more highbrow affair than a lot of the books in that book and in that genre. But really, really good. Really recommend it. Since we're talking about comics, I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is the first 4 issues of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance comic. If you've watched the Netflix show, if you love the Jim Henson film, The Dark Crystal, you will like these comics. This is the first 4 issues, and then starting with issue 5, 4 issues, I am scripting from a story by Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews, the showrunners. It's out from Boom Studios January 15th. If you're going to your local comic store to pick up these Hill House books, make sure you ask for the Dark Crystal comics, issue 5 through 5, 6, 7, 8. Issue 5 through 8, those are scripted by me. French Carlo Mango is doing the art. It's incredible. If you watch the show, if you know Hup, the Podling Paladin, this is all about Hup. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good miniseries, and you don't have to have watched the show. You don't have to be a Dark Crystal super fan. If you like the kind of goofy stuff I do, you will enjoy these 4 issues. They tell a complete story, and you'll really like it. If you want to find out more about me, my work, the book I have coming out from Harper Teen in August 2020, you can find my links to the website, to Twitter, to all that stuff down below. Like, subscribe, go watch other videos, go do all that stuff. But have a great day, everyone.